Imagine sitting by a crackling fireplace on a chilly evening, the warm glow casting flickering shadows on the walls, as an older woman with eyes that seem to hold the weight and wonder of countless years begins to speak. Her voice, calm and steady, carries the kind of wisdom that only comes from a lifetime of triumphs, failures, love, loss, and everything in between. You find yourself leaning in, hanging on to every word, hoping that within her stories lies the answer to a question you've held for so long: what truly matters in this life? Today, you don't have to imagine anymore, because we're diving into the lessons shared by such a woman, lessons shaped by decades of experience and a heart that has weathered life's storms. Her perspectives are not just advice, they are treasures, gifts of insight that only those who have walked a long and winding road can offer. Whether you are searching for clarity, healing, or a deeper sense of purpose, this video will reveal timeless truths and simple yet profound advice that could shift the way you see your own life and the world around you. Stay with us, because the wisdom we're about to uncover has the power to resonate with you deeply, no matter where you are on your journey. Now, turning to the timeless practice of listening to our elders, we find that this tradition is woven into the fabric of cultures around the world for a very good reason. Older individuals, like the wise woman we are focusing on today, have braved storms that we can only imagine and celebrated joys that have carved lasting impressions on their hearts. Their lives are living testaments to the highs and lows of the human experience, offering us a treasure trove of lessons that can guide our own paths. Think of the countless times you might have heard a grandparent or elder share a story, only to realize later how much depth was hidden in their words. There is an old proverb that says, "A fool learns from his own mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others." This is exactly why the wisdom of elders is invaluable. They have walked roads we are just beginning to tread, fallen into pitfalls we might otherwise stumble into, and found ways out of challenges that might seem insurmountable to us. Take, for instance, their advice on relationships, work, or simply the art of being patient during tough times. It comes not from a place of speculation, but from hard-earned experience. Listening to their stories not only saves us from avoidable errors, but also provides clarity and perspective that are difficult to gain on our own. It is as though they offer us a map marked with cautionary tales and oases of hope, helping us navigate life's twists and turns with greater wisdom and fewer regrets. By opening our ears and hearts to what they have to say, we get the rare opportunity to grow not just from our own experiences, but also from the wealth of theirs. Their wisdom forms a bridge between generations, a connection that reminds us we are not alone in our struggles or dreams, but part of a broader, ongoing journey of humanity. And now, as we step further into this exploration, let us look at one of the most profound lessons often shared by those who have lived long enough to see its power: the quiet yet extraordinary gift of patience. Now, turning to the extraordinary gift of patience, we uncover one of life's most powerful yet understated virtues. The wise old woman often spoke of patience not as mere waiting, but as an active, deliberate practice of strength and understanding. She would say, patience is not the absence of action. It is waiting for the right moment to act with calm and wisdom. Imagine being confronted with a challenging decision, perhaps a conflict at work or a misunderstanding with a close friend. The natural impulse might be to react immediately, to fix, to confront, or to resolve. Yet, she would remind us that true clarity often reveals itself only when we allow time to untangle the knots. She shared a story about her younger days when she was eager to achieve everything all at once. Rushing through life caused her to make hasty decisions she later came to regret. Over time, she learned that acting out of urgency often clouded her judgment, and instead, waiting for the right moment brought her better outcomes. Patience, she explained, is like planting a seed. You cannot force it to grow overnight, but with care and time, it will bloom into something beautiful. To cultivate patience in our own lives, she suggested starting small. When faced with delays or inconveniences like waiting in a line or dealing with a slow response, see these moments as opportunities to practice calmness rather than sources of frustration. Breathing deeply and focusing on the bigger picture can help us step back and respond with wisdom rather than impulse. She also emphasized the importance of practicing empathy, as understanding others' circumstances can naturally make us more patient. Patience teaches us to let things unfold as they are meant to, without forcing or resisting, and gives us the clarity to make decisions that align with our true desires and values. By embracing patience, we gain not only peace of mind, but also the ability to navigate life's challenges with grace and foresight. As we reflect on her teachings about patience, let us now venture into another timeless piece of wisdom she often shared: the art of letting go. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman often reminded us of the dangers of rushing through life. She believed that when we hurry, we risk missing the beauty and meaning hidden in the small, precious moments. She would say, life is not a race to the finish line. It is a series of steps meant to be savored one at a time. She often shared a memory of her youth when she was so focused on achieving her next goal that she barely noticed the laughter of her children playing in the garden or the warmth of the sun on a quiet morning. It wasn't until much later in life, when the garden was silent, that she realized those fleeting moments were the true treasures. Her advice was simple but profound: slow down. Take time to truly listen when a loved one speaks, to enjoy the taste of your favorite meal, or to lose yourself in the colors of a sunset. She believed our greatest contentment arises not from reaching milestones, but from deeply experiencing the journey toward them. For instance, she pointed out how many people rush through important stages of their lives: childhood, relationships, careers, always chasing the next thing, only to look back and wish they had appreciated these moments more. She encouraged living fully in whatever stage of life you are in, whether it is celebrating the energy of youth or embracing the quiet wisdom of old age. When we slow down and engage with the present, she explained, we find not only joy but also clarity. Life begins to feel less like a blur and more like a well-composed melody, each note distinct and meaningful. So, as her wisdom guides us, let us learn to walk at life's pace, savoring its rhythm and appreciating its beauty. And now, let us explore another profound teaching she often shared: the art of letting go. As the next chapter of her wisdom unfolds, the wise old woman often spoke of the art of letting go. She believed that carrying the weight of grudges, past mistakes, or unattainable expectations was like trying to climb a mountain with a heavy bag of stones strapped to your back. She would say, each stone you carry is a choice. You can set it down anytime, but it takes courage to open your hands and let it go. One of her most vivid stories was about a friend she had quarreled with in her younger years. For decades, she held onto the bitterness of that argument, replaying it in her mind and imagining how she could have said something sharper, something more cutting. But when she finally reconnected with that friend late in life, she realized how much time had been wasted holding onto anger that no longer mattered. She said it felt like seeing the sun after years of walking in the rain. She would remind us that forgiveness is not about excusing the wrongs or forgetting them, but about freeing ourselves from the ongoing pain they caused. Letting go, she explained, is not a sign of weakness but an act of self-liberation. She encouraged us to start small, perhaps by forgiving ourselves for mistakes we made yesterday or extending grace to someone who hurt us in a minor way. Every act of forgiveness, no matter how small, is like removing one stone from that heavy bag. She also urged us to examine our expectations of ourselves, of others, and of life. Unrealistic goals or rigid ideas about how things should be can leave us feeling endlessly frustrated, she warned. Instead of clinging tightly to how we think life should unfold, she encouraged embracing what is as it is. To practice this, she suggested asking yourself a single question: what am I holding onto that no longer serves me? It could be a grudge, a regret, or even a dream that has lost its meaning. Her voice would always soften when she spoke of this, her wisdom wrapped in compassion. She reminded us that letting go is a lifelong practice, one that brings peace and lightness to the heart. And with this newfound freedom, as she said, we can better embrace the beauty of what lies ahead. Following her guidance on the art of letting go, we are drawn to her next profound lesson: kindness and its immeasurable impact. Moving forward, the wise old woman often emphasized that kindness is never wasted. She believed that even the smallest acts of kindness could ripple outward in ways we may never see, touching lives in profound and unexpected manners. Kindness, she would say, is not a transaction. It is a gift from your heart to the world. One of her favorite stories to share was about a simple gesture she made as a young woman. On a cold winter evening, she gave her scarf to a stranger who looked like they needed it more than she did. Decades later, she was approached by someone who remembered her kindness that day. That small act had inspired them to live a life of service, helping those in need. The wise old woman never expected anything in return for her kindness, but that moment reminded her of its lasting power. She taught us that true kindness is not dependent on whether it will be acknowledged or repaid. It is a reflection of who we are and the values we choose to embody. She encouraged simple acts: a warm smile to a passerby, a sincere compliment to a colleague, or even holding the door open for a stranger. These are not grand gestures, but they carry the potential to brighten someone's day in ways we might never know. She also addressed the times when kindness feels unrewarded or unnoticed. Kindness is not about recognition, she would reassure us. It is about planting seeds of goodness in a world that desperately needs them. She believed that when we act with kindness, we contribute to a better world, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. It nurtures our spirit, making us feel more connected to the humanity around us. She reminded us that kindness is especially powerful in difficult moments when tempers are frayed, when patience is thin, when it feels easier to respond with anger or indifference. These are the moments, she would say, where kindness holds the most transformative power. She left us with a simple practice: each day, look for one small way to be kind. It doesn't have to be extraordinary, it only needs to be genuine. She believed that over time, these small acts would become a habit, and in doing so, we would not only impact others but also soften our own hearts. With this profound lesson on kindness, she paved the way for her next vital piece of advice: the ability to embrace change with grace and courage. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman often spoke about the inevitability of change. She viewed change not as an obstacle to fear, but as an inherent part of life's rhythm. Resisting change, she believed, often led to unnecessary hardship, while embracing it opened doors to personal growth and surprising opportunities. She would explain that fighting against change is like trying to hold back the tide. It only drains our energy without altering the outcome. Instead, she encouraged us to focus on how we respond to change, for it is in our response that our true strength lies. One of her lessons came from a time in her life when she faced the unexpected loss of a cherished job. At first, she was overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty. But rather than dwelling on what was gone, she decided to see it as a chance to explore new paths. This mindset shift led her to discover an entirely different career she eventually came to love, one she might never have pursued otherwise. Through this experience, she learned that change can sometimes feel like an ending, but it may also be the beginning of something greater. To help us navigate change with grace, she shared a few practical steps. First, she advised us to acknowledge our emotions rather than suppress them. Grieving what is lost is natural, she said, but we must not let it anchor us. Second, she encouraged us to look for opportunities within the change. Ask yourself, she would say, what new doors might this open for you? Lastly, she reminded us to stay adaptable, to be willing to adjust our plans and expectations as the situation evolves. These steps, she believed, could turn even the most daunting changes into catalysts for growth. She would often quote the saying, "A tree that bends in the wind does not break," reminding us that flexibility is a sign of strength, not weakness. Her perspective on embracing change was not only about survival but about thriving. She taught us that change is not something to endure, it is something to use as a stepping stone toward becoming a better version of ourselves. As we learn to face change with open hearts and open minds, she prepared us for her next lesson, the beauty of finding peace in simplicity. As the next chapter unfolds, the wise old woman often spoke of the profound serenity found in simplicity. In a world increasingly tangled in material desires and endless distractions, she believed that simplicity was not just a way of living but a path to genuine happiness. She would say, "When we clear the clutter from our lives, we make space for what truly matters." For her, this wasn't limited to physical possessions. She encouraged us to declutter our minds by letting go of needless worries and to simplify our relationships by focusing on sincerity and mutual respect rather than expectations and superficial connections. One of her stories captured this beautifully. She once lived in a large, bustling home filled with things she thought she needed, but during a challenging period, circumstances forced her to downsize to a smaller, simpler home. At first, she saw it as a loss, but over time, she discovered an unexpected joy in having fewer possessions and more meaningful experiences. She described how the newfound simplicity allowed her to spend more time with loved ones, pursue her passions, and reflect on her inner peace. It was as if, she explained, life became lighter and I could finally breathe. She would often remind us that choosing simplicity is not about depriving ourselves but about making room for abundance, the kind that truly enriches our lives. She suggested practical steps to embrace simplicity, such as starting with small acts like clearing out a single drawer or scheduling time to be present with family without distractions. She believed these small changes could lead to profound transformations. By removing what is unnecessary, we can uncover what is essential. Her guidance on simplicity wasn't about renouncing the world, but about rediscovering its beauty in less, teaching us that true contentment often lies in the quietest corners of life. As we absorbed her wisdom on simplicity, she gently prepared us for her next lesson, the importance of self-care as a foundation for all aspects of well-being. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman often emphasized the importance of self-care, reminding us that tending to ourselves is not an act of selfishness but a necessity for living fully. She believed that only by nurturing our own well-being could we truly be present and supportive for others. To her, self-care was a holistic practice that balanced the physical, emotional, and mental aspects of life. She often shared, "You cannot pour from an empty cup. Caring for yourself first is the foundation for everything else." She spoke of simple yet profound ways to integrate self-care into our daily lives, especially as we age. She encouraged mindfulness, taking just a few moments each day to sit quietly, notice your breath, and be present in the here and now. According to her, this practice helped clear the mental clutter and brought a sense of calm even during life's storms. Beyond mindfulness, she also stressed the value of setting healthy boundaries, explaining how learning to say no to what drains us allows for saying yes to what truly nurtures us. She would often share examples of how prioritizing her own needs, whether it was a peaceful morning walk in nature or declining obligations that felt overwhelming, helped her maintain the energy and emotional balance to care for her family and those she loved. Physical wellness was another pillar of her advice. She believed in treating the body as a temple, not through rigorous extremes but through gentle, consistent care. She spoke of the benefits of staying active, preparing nourishing meals, and most importantly, listening to the body's signals. She often said, "Your body carries you through this life, honor it and it will honor you back." Her wisdom on self-care became even more poignant as she spoke of its significance with age. she reflected on how life's demands can sometimes cause us to neglect ourselves, but as she grew older, she realized that caring for herself was not an indulgence but a responsibility. It was through self-care that she found the strength to embrace life's challenges and the clarity to savor its joys. She urged us to start small, like carving out 10 minutes a day for quiet reflection, or making a single choice that prioritizes health, a stretch, a walk, or even a kind thought toward oneself. For her, these small acts were seeds that blossomed into a life of balance and fulfillment. As we contemplated her wisdom on self-care, it became clear that this practice was not merely about pampering oneself, but about sustaining the soul's vitality. And with this foundation set, she led us into her next lesson, one of learning and growing through life's inevitable mistakes. Now turning to the next chapter, the wise old woman often spoke of mistakes not as failures, but as the essential stepping stones to growth. To her, every misstep carried a lesson waiting to be uncovered, a chance for self-improvement and resilience. She used to say, "A mistake is only wasted if you learn nothing from it." Her perspective was rooted in the belief that life, with all its unpredictability, is a continuous learning experience. She reminded us that everyone falters. It is part of being human, but what truly matters is how we choose to respond. She would often point to practical examples, like the tendency to rush into decisions without fully understanding the consequences. Perhaps it is a poorly chosen word in a heated moment, or an overlooked responsibility that later spirals into a problem. She encouraged us to view these errors not with shame or regret, but as opportunities to pause, reflect, and adjust our approach. She shared her own story of a mistake from her younger days, one where she rushed to judge someone harshly, only to later realize she misunderstood their intentions. Rather than dwelling on the regret, she reflected on what that experience taught her: the importance of patience, empathy, and seeking understanding before assuming the worst. This lesson stayed with her and shaped the way she approached relationships ever since. According to her wisdom, the first step in learning from mistakes is acknowledgement. Denying or blaming others for our errors only delays the growth they offer. She believed that self-honesty, though uncomfortable at times, opens the door to meaningful change. Once we face a mistake head-on, she advised taking a moment to ask, "What can this teach me?" Whether it is an insight on better communication, improved decision-making, or simply a reminder to slow down, there is always something to be gained. She also emphasized the courage it takes to move forward after a mistake. It is easy to get stuck in feelings of guilt or fear of repeating the error, but she would say, "Courage is stepping back into the world wiser than you were before." She encouraged practicing self-compassion along the way, reminding us that beating ourselves up serves no purpose. Instead, treat yourself as you would a dear friend, with kindness and encouragement to do better next time. Her advice often included actionable steps, like journaling about the experience to uncover patterns, or seeking feedback from others who can provide a different perspective. She also stressed the importance of applying the lessons learned. Mistakes, she said, lose their power when we use them as tools for growth. Reflecting on her wisdom, it became clear that mistakes are not obstacles but valuable teachers. They push us to grow, to adapt, and to become more resilient. With her guidance, mistakes transformed from sources of shame into moments of profound learning. And as we absorbed this lesson, she guided us toward the next insight, one focused on the irreplaceable value of true friendship. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman often reflected on the deep, unspoken value of true friendship. To her, genuine friendships were treasures that grew richer with time, offering both joy and solace through life's inevitable twists and turns. She believed that true friends are not just companions but mirrors that reflect our best selves even in our darkest moments. A true friend, she would say, is someone who listens without judgment, supports without conditions, and celebrates your victories as if they were their own. She often shared stories of her own friendships, bonds forged through years of shared laughter, tears, and unwavering trust. One story she recounted was of a childhood friend who stood by her during a period of profound loss. Through this bond, she learned that friendship is not about constant perfection or agreement, but about standing together even when life feels unsteady. This friend, despite living miles away in later years, would send handwritten letters filled with warmth and encouragement. Her story reminded us that distance, whether physical or emotional, does not have to diminish the strength of a true connection. Her advice on maintaining meaningful friendships was as timeless as it was practical. She emphasized the importance of intentionality, making the effort to reach out, to check in, to share both the big moments and the quiet ones. She encouraged being present, not just in person but in spirit, truly listening and engaging with the people who matter most. Misunderstandings, she acknowledged, are bound to happen. The key, however, she said, is addressing them with honesty and grace. A simple conversation rooted in kindness can mend what might otherwise divide. She also spoke of the need for forgiveness in friendship, being willing to let go of minor grievances and to extend grace to those who, like ourselves, are imperfect. Yet, she also reminded us that true friendship is reciprocal. If a relationship becomes one-sided or drains more than it nurtures, it is okay to step back while still wishing the other person well. Her wisdom here was clear. Friendships, like all relationships, thrive on mutual respect and effort. Another gem she shared was the idea of gratitude, never taking your friends for granted. Whether through a heartfelt thank you, a thoughtful gesture, or simply spending quality time together, expressing appreciation strengthens the bond and shows how much the relationship is valued. She also encouraged celebrating the milestones of your friends, big or small, as these moments create shared joy and deepen the connection. Through her stories and lessons, it became evident that friendships are not merely optional parts of life but essential threads in the fabric of our well-being. They teach us to love and to be loved, to grow and to support others in their growth. As her words lingered in our minds, she gently guided us toward the next lesson, one centered on the enduring importance of family bonds. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman softly turned her thoughts to the intricate tapestry of family bonds. To her, family was not defined solely by blood, but by the unwavering commitment to love, nurture, and stand by one another through life's unpredictable turns. She often described family as the roots of a tree, providing stability and strength even when storms threaten to topple everything else. These connections, she believed, hold the potential to bring out the deepest forms of unconditional love, yet they also require work, understanding, and patience. She acknowledged that family relationships can be complex, often layered with misunderstandings, past hurts, or differing expectations. But she always emphasized that the effort to maintain or repair these ties is worth it. She would tell us that just as no one is perfect, no family is without its flaws. Yet, it is precisely within those imperfections that love has the chance to grow stronger. She shared stories of her own family struggles, recounting moments when disagreements seemed insurmountable, only to be resolved through humility and open communication. Her lesson was clear. It is not the absence of conflict that defines a strong family, but the willingness to navigate it with compassion and a genuine desire to heal. The wise old woman often spoke of the power of forgiveness within families. She believed that holding onto resentment for past mistakes only serves to deepen the rift, while forgiveness can bring immeasurable peace to both parties. She encouraged viewing family members not just as relatives but as individuals with their own stories, struggles, and growth. This perspective, she said, allows us to approach family relationships with more understanding and less judgment. Cherishing moments with family was another principle she held dear. Whether it was a shared meal, a heartfelt conversation, or simply sitting in silence together, she believed that these small, seemingly ordinary moments often leave the most profound imprints on our hearts. She urged that amid the busyness of life, we must intentionally carve out time for family, for these moments are what ultimately weave the fabric of our memories. For those with strained family ties, her advice was gentle yet firm. Reach out with an open heart. Even if reconciliation seems uncertain, taking that step shows courage and builds inner peace. She often said that no gesture of love or effort to mend a relationship is ever wasted. Even if it does not work out as hoped, the attempt itself reflects the strength to rise above pride and embrace connection. Yet she also spoke candidly about boundaries. While family bonds can provide deep enrichment, they should not come at the cost of one's self-respect or well-being. The wise old woman reminded us that loving family from a distance is valid when circumstances require it, underscoring that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect. Her parting thought on family was simple but profound. Treasure them while you can. Life is fleeting, and moments shared together are irreplaceable. Whether through acts of kindness, words of appreciation, or quiet understanding, nurturing family bonds enriches not only those relationships but also nourishes our own sense of belonging and purpose. As her words settled deeply within, she prepared to unveil the next invaluable lesson, one rooted in the art of spending time on what truly matters. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman gently guided us to reflect on the precious gift of time and how we choose to spend it. She often reminded us that time is the one resource we can never replenish, urging us to treat it as the treasure it truly is. Her wisdom illuminated the importance of focusing on what genuinely brings happiness and fulfillment, rather than allowing our days to be consumed by distractions or obligations that hold little meaning. She would often ask, "What truly matters to you? When you look back, what will bring you a sense of contentment?" These questions, simple yet profound, served as a compass for identifying priorities. She encouraged taking time to reflect honestly on what adds value to our lives, be it family, friendships, personal passions, or contributions to the community. By recognizing these elements, she explained, we can begin to invest our energy intentionally rather than scattering it aimlessly. To illustrate her point, she shared a story about a friend who spent years chasing professional success, believing it would lead to happiness. However, upon reaching the pinnacle of her career, that friend found herself feeling empty, realizing she had neglected her relationships and personal well-being along the way. It was only when she reoriented her focus, spending weekends with her children, picking up a long-forgotten hobby, and reconnecting with old friends, that she discovered a deeper sense of fulfillment. The wise old woman often shared this as a reminder that success without meaning is hollow, and true satisfaction lies in aligning our time with our values. Her advice went beyond reflection. It included practical actions to regain control of how we use our time. She urged eliminating unnecessary distractions, whether they be endless scrolling on devices, commitments driven by guilt, or the pursuit of things that don't align with our true desires. She suggested creating boundaries that protect time for what matters most, thinking of it as a way to honor ourselves and the people or pursuits that enrich our lives. She also reminded us to embrace the power of saying no. To her, every no to something unimportant is a yes to something meaningful. She recounted having once declined a social invitation that didn't align with her priorities, choosing instead to spend the evening with her grandchildren, creating memories that would far outlast any fleeting obligation. This ability to prioritize, she believed, is a skill worth cultivating as it shapes the quality of our lives. Moreover, she spoke about living in the present without being consumed by an endless to-do list. She encouraged carving out moments of stillness, listening to the rustling of leaves on a quiet walk, savoring a meaningful conversation, or simply pausing to appreciate the beauty of a sunset. She believed that these small moments, rich in presence and awareness, are often what make life feel full and meaningful. The wise old woman always ended such conversations with a call to introspection, asking us to regularly check in with ourselves. Are we spending time in ways that feel aligned with who we are and what we value? Are we saying yes to the things that matter most? These simple self-inquiries, she believed, could redirect our paths toward more intentional and fulfilling lives. With these reflections lingering in our minds, she gently prepared to share the next profound lesson, one centered on the transformative power of gratitude in shaping our outlook on life. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman turned our attention to the transformative power of gratitude, a practice she described as the foundation of true happiness. She believed that gratitude was not just about acknowledging life's joys, but also finding meaning in its challenges. To her, it was a lens through which we could see the world more clearly, appreciating not only what we have but also the lessons hidden in adversity. She often shared that cultivating gratitude starts with the smallest of actions, such as pausing each day to reflect on 3 things we are thankful for. She explained how this simple habit trains the mind to focus on abundance rather than scarcity, gradually shifting our perspective. For some, this might be the warmth of a loved one's smile, a moment of peace in a busy day, or even the strength to overcome a difficult situation. She encouraged writing these reflections in a journal, as the act of writing deepens the connection to those feelings and creates a record to revisit during harder times. One story she loved to recount was about a man she knew who, after losing his business, fell into a deep despair. For months, he saw only failure and loss. But at her urging, he embraced a daily practice of gratitude, starting with the little things: a roof over his head, the support of his family, the comfort of a meal at the end of the day. Over time, this practice helped him see his hardships in a new light. He started to recognize the resilience he had developed and the opportunities that emerged from starting fresh. Eventually, he rebuilt his life, not just professionally but through deeper relationships and a renewed sense of purpose. He often credited gratitude as the turning point that had transformed his outlook from defeat to hope. The wise old woman explained that gratitude is not about pretending life is perfect, but about choosing to focus on the light within the darkness. She reminded us that even trials carry gifts if we are willing to look closely. Perhaps it is the strength we gain, the lessons we learn, or the connections we form as we navigate those moments. She believed that by embracing this mindset, we could face life's ups and downs with greater resilience and grace. She also spoke of expressing thanks to others as a way to nurture gratitude. Whether it was a heartfelt thank you note, a kind word shared aloud, or an act of generosity in return, she emphasized how these simple gestures not only deepen our relationships but also amplify our own sense of appreciation. She liked to say that gratitude, when shared, has a ripple effect, spreading kindness and positivity far beyond the initial act. To her, gratitude was more than a practice. It was a guiding principle for living a contented and meaningful life. By appreciating what we already have, we free ourselves from constantly chasing what we think we need. She believed this shift could quiet the noise of comparison and dissatisfaction, allowing us to feel more at peace with where we are and who we are. As she wrapped up this lesson, she left us with one final thought. Gratitude is not a feeling that waits for perfect circumstances. It's a choice we make every day. With those words resonating deeply, she prepared us to explore her insights on living life with integrity, a topic she held close to her heart. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman began to speak about the profound importance of living a life rooted in integrity. To her, integrity was more than just a word. It was a compass guiding every choice, every action, and every relationship. She believed that a life aligned with one's values and principles was a life of true fulfillment, free from the inner turmoil that comes from compromising one's sense of right and wrong. She often said that integrity is not built in moments of ease, but in moments of challenge, when doing the right thing might come at a personal cost. She shared stories of people who, when faced with difficult decisions, chose integrity over convenience, and how those choices ultimately shaped their character and earned the respect of others. One story she frequently recounted was of a young woman who, despite intense pressure from her peers to cut corners in a business deal, stood firm in her ethics. Even though she faced temporary setbacks, her honesty and fairness built a foundation of trust that propelled her success in the long term. The wise old woman emphasized that integrity is deeply intertwined with our relationships. She explained that trust, the cornerstone of any meaningful connection, is built through consistent honesty and reliability. When your words and actions match, she would say, people know they can rely on you, and that trust becomes unshakable. She warned, however, that trust, once broken, is difficult to repair, underscoring the importance of staying true to one's values, even when no one is watching. She offered practical advice for cultivating integrity in daily life, no matter how small the actions. One practice she recommended was to pause before making decisions and reflect on whether the choice aligns with your principles. She encouraged asking simple but powerful questions. Is this honest? Is this fair? Will this bring harm or good? She believed that this habit of mindful reflection could prevent us from being swayed by momentary temptations or external pressures. Another piece of advice she championed was owning up to mistakes. She explained that no one is perfect, and living with integrity does not mean never faltering. Instead, it means taking responsibility when we do, apologizing sincerely, and striving to make amends. She reminded us that humility in acknowledging errors often strengthens relationships and demonstrates true character. The wise old woman also spoke of standing firm in one's beliefs, even when faced with criticism or opposition. She explained that integrity sometimes requires the courage to stand alone, to say no, or to hold onto principles when others may not. But she reassured us that this courage, though challenging, often inspires others and lays the groundwork for a life of self-respect and authenticity. To her, living with integrity was not about being perfect, but about striving to align actions with values in every possible way. It was about earning the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have acted honorably, regardless of the outcome. She believed that integrity, while it may not always bring immediate rewards, always matters in the long run, shaping not only how others view us, but more importantly, how we view ourselves. As she concluded this lesson, she left us with a gentle reminder: integrity is not something you wear for others to see. It is something you carry within, a light that guides you through the darkest moments. Then, with her words still echoing in our minds, she invited us to explore her views on facing fear with courage, a lesson she described as transformative for those striving to navigate life with strength and resilience. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman began to share her thoughts on courage, a concept she believed was often misunderstood. To her, courage was not about the absence of fear, but about the determination to face fear head-on and move forward, even when the path seemed uncertain. She explained that fear itself is not the enemy, it is how we respond to it that shapes our lives. She spoke of the fear of failure, a feeling that many of us know all too well. She described how this fear often holds people back from chasing their dreams or taking risks that could lead to growth and fulfillment. To illustrate, she shared a story of a man who had dreamed of starting his own small bakery. Despite his talent and passion, he let the fear of financial uncertainty and the possibility of failure keep him from pursuing his goal. Years later, he regretted not taking the leap, realizing that the fear of failure had cost him more than the failure itself ever could. The wise old woman believed that courage involves reframing our fears, seeing them not as barriers but as opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. She emphasized that while fear may never fully disappear, it can be managed through small, deliberate acts of bravery. She often said, courage does not mean jumping into the deep end all at once. It means taking one steady step at a time toward what scares you. She also discussed the fear of the unknown, a fear that often arises when life takes an unexpected turn. To her, facing the unknown with courage required trust in oneself, trust in the process, and trust in the possibility of unforeseen blessings. She shared an example of a woman who, after losing her job, was terrified of what the future would hold. Instead of letting that fear paralyze her, the woman decided to take a course in a field she had always been curious about. That choice, though intimidating at first, eventually led her to a new career she never imagined she would love. The wise old woman urged us to practice courage in everyday moments, no matter how small they may seem. She explained that bravery is a muscle. It grows stronger the more you use it. Whether it is voicing an unpopular opinion, asking for help, or taking the first step toward a daunting goal, every act of courage builds resilience and confidence over time. She also reminded us that courage is often quiet. It is found in the way we keep going even when we feel like giving up, in the way we embrace vulnerability and allow ourselves to be seen as we truly are. She encouraged us to view fear as a teacher, one that helps us understand our deepest desires and pushes us toward our fullest potential. As she shared these insights, she left us with a thought to carry forward. Courage is not about being fearless, it is about feeling the fear and standing firm anyway. It is about letting your determination be louder than your doubt. Then, with her voice filled with both strength and warmth, she invited us to reflect on the art of letting go, a lesson she described as essential for finding peace and moving forward in life. Moving forward, the wise old woman turned her attention to a trap that many fall into: the tendency to compare ourselves to others. She spoke with gentle conviction, explaining how this habit can steal our joy and leave us feeling inadequate. To her, the key to a fulfilling life lies not in measuring ourselves against others, but in finding contentment with our unique journey. She shared the story of two neighbors, each with a beautiful garden. One spent her mornings lovingly tending to her flowers, taking pride in the vibrant colors and the peace her garden brought her. The other, however, would glance over the fence, constantly comparing her roses to those next door. Instead of enjoying her own garden, she focused on what she thought was missing. Over time, the joy she once found in her own space faded, replaced by frustration and envy. The wise old woman used this tale to remind us that comparison can blind us to the beauty and blessings in our own lives. She explained that everyone's path is different, shaped by unique experiences, challenges, and choices. Comparing your journey to someone else's is like comparing a river to a mountain. They are both beautiful, but in entirely different ways. She encouraged us to think about the things that truly matter to us and to measure our success by our own values, not by the standards set by others. In her quiet wisdom, she acknowledged that the world often tempts us to compare. Whether it is through social media, careers, or material possessions, it is easy to feel like we are falling behind. But she urged us to remember that these comparisons are only surface deep. The person with the seemingly perfect life might be struggling in ways we cannot see. She advised us to focus on gratitude for what we have rather than longing for what we think we lack. To illustrate, she spoke of a young man who admired his friend's high-paying job. He often felt jealous, believing his own work was insignificant in comparison. But one day, his friend confided that although he earned more, he was deeply unhappy, working long hours in a field he did not love. This realization helped the young man see the value in his own career, which, while modest, brought him joy and a sense of purpose. The wise old woman emphasized that contentment begins with self-awareness, knowing who you are and what fulfills you. She encouraged us to celebrate our progress, no matter how small, and to understand that life is not a race but a journey. She often said, "The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday." As she concluded her thoughts, she left us with a simple yet profound reminder. You cannot bloom if you are too busy looking at someone else's garden. Nourish your own path, and you will find that contentment grows where gratitude is planted. With these words, she gracefully led us into the next topic, one that explored the joy and fulfillment found in giving to others. Now turning to the joy of giving, the wise old woman shared her heartfelt belief that true fulfillment often comes from the act of giving. She spoke of giving not as a transaction but as a selfless gesture, unburdened by the need for recognition or reciprocation. To her, generosity was more than just an action. It was a way of connecting with others and enriching one's own soul. She recounted the story of a teacher who, despite her modest salary, secretly paid for one of her students' school supplies. The student, unaware of the teacher's kindness, excelled in school and years later became a doctor who saved countless lives. The teacher never sought acknowledgement for her contribution, yet the ripple effects of her generosity reached far beyond what she could have imagined. The wise old woman explained that giving does not always require grand gestures. It can be as simple as offering a kind word, listening to someone who needs to be heard, or sharing a meal with a neighbor. These small acts, though seemingly insignificant, can create profound moments of connection and brighten another person's day. She also shared a personal memory of a time when she was younger and had little to offer materially. Yet she found ways to give by sharing her time and wisdom with those around her. She believed that even when we think we have nothing to give, we always possess something valuable: our compassion, our attention, or our encouragement. Through her stories, the wise old woman reminded us that giving is as much a gift to the giver as it is to the recipient. She spoke of how acts of generosity often bring a deep sense of joy and purpose, creating a feeling of interconnectedness that transcends material wealth. She encouraged us to give with an open heart, emphasizing that the worth of a gift lies not in its size but in the intention behind it. To inspire us further, she shared the example of a man who volunteered at a local food bank. Initially, he joined because he felt obligated to help his community. But over time, he found that the experience gave him more than he could have anticipated. He gained new friendships, a sense of purpose, and the fulfillment of knowing he was making a difference in the lives of others. The wise old woman often said, "Giving is the only investment where the returns are guaranteed. You give joy and receive it in abundance." She urged us to embrace generosity as a way of life, reminding us that even the smallest act of kindness can have a tremendous impact. As she concluded, she left us with this gentle wisdom: in giving, we find ourselves. When we share what we have, whether it is our time, our resources, or our wisdom, we create a world that is kinder, warmer, and more connected. Generosity is not just about changing someone else's life, it is about transforming our own. With her words of encouragement still lingering in the air, she then led us toward a discussion on embracing change, a topic as inevitable as it is essential. Moving forward, the wise old woman emphasized the profound importance of investing in knowledge, a treasure that grows richer with time. To her, the pursuit of learning was not confined to classrooms or youth. It was a lifelong journey that nourished the mind and enriched the soul. She believed that no matter our age, there is always something new to discover, some skill to develop, or a perspective to broaden. She shared a story of an elderly man who, in his 70s, decided to learn a new language. At first, people doubted his ability, saying it was too late for him to begin. But he persisted, dedicating a little time each day to studying. Over the years, he not only became fluent but also used his new skill to volunteer as a translator for newcomers in his community. This learning brought him a sense of purpose and the joy of connecting with others in ways he never imagined. The wise old woman explained that acquiring knowledge is not just about practical benefits, it also keeps the mind sharp and engaged. She pointed to studies showing that constant learning can slow cognitive decline and improve overall mental well-being. She encouraged her listeners to pick up a book they have always wanted to read, enroll in a course, or even learn a hobby they once thought was beyond their reach. Start small, she said, but start somewhere. You have no idea where even the tiniest spark of curiosity might lead. To illustrate this, she recounted the inspiring story of a woman who, after retiring from a long career as a nurse, decided to pursue her childhood dream of painting. With no formal training, she began by watching free tutorials online and practicing daily in her living room. Over time, her work improved, and she eventually held her first art exhibition at the age of 82. The joy she found in this creative pursuit not only enriched her life but also inspired others around her to chase their dreams regardless of their age. The wise old woman often said, "Knowledge is the one thing no one can ever take from you. It is a companion in solitude, a tool in adversity, and a bridge to endless opportunities." She urged her listeners to cultivate a mindset of curiosity and growth, reminding them that the world is full of things to learn and explore. She left her audience with this thought-provoking question: what is the one thing you have always wanted to learn but never gave yourself the chance to try? With that, she guided us toward the next piece of advice, where she shared her timeless wisdom on why it is never too late to start anew, regardless of the paths we have traveled so far. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman illuminated her belief that it is never too late to start anew. She spoke with a quiet conviction, reminding everyone that life, no matter where we stand on its timeline, always offers fresh opportunities to pursue passions, mend relationships, or set new goals. The clock, she often said, is not your enemy. It is the weight of hesitation and self-doubt that holds you back. To illustrate this, she shared the life of a man who, at the age of 65, found himself at what seemed like a dead end. Retired with little savings and no clear direction, he could have allowed despair to consume him. Instead, he chose to act. Drawing on a simple recipe for fried chicken he had perfected over the years, he went door to door, offering samples to local restaurants. Through persistence, his recipe eventually became the foundation of a global chain that brought him success far beyond his expectations. The man, of course, was Colonel Sanders, whose name and story remind us that age is no barrier to discovery and achievement. The wise old woman often reflected on relationships, emphasizing that it is never too late to mend broken bonds. She spoke of a mother and daughter who had grown apart over decades of misunderstandings and unspoken words. One day, the daughter mustered the courage to reach out, writing a heartfelt letter. The mother, deeply touched, responded with equal vulnerability. Over time, they rebuilt their connection, creating a relationship more meaningful than either could have imagined. The wise old woman reminded us that relationships, like gardens, can flourish once more with love and effort, no matter how long they have been untended. She also encouraged individuals to embrace new goals, no matter how audacious they may seem. One of her favorite stories was of a man who, after spending decades working as a janitor, decided to fulfill his childhood dream of becoming a teacher. At the age of 54, he enrolled in college, balancing his studies with his work. Years later, he graduated and began teaching at a school in his own community, earning the admiration and respect of his students. His story stands as proof that it is never too late to rewrite your narrative. The wise old woman's voice carried wisdom gathered from years of observing human resilience. "Do not measure your life by the time that's passed," she said, "but by the courage you show in stepping forward. Each day is an empty canvas ready for the strokes of your choosing." She urged her listeners to look inward and identify what they had always longed to do, but had been too fearful or hesitant to pursue. She left her audience with a powerful call to action. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is one step you can take today to begin anew? No matter how small, it is the first step that leads to a journey of transformation. With this advice resonating deeply, she prepared to unveil her insights on finding spirituality and inner peace, a sanctuary for the soul amid life's constant tides. As the sun rises on the next chapter of her wisdom, the wise old woman shared her deeply held belief in the transformative power of spirituality and inner reflection. To her, spirituality was not confined to rituals or doctrines, but was a personal journey inward, a way to connect with one's own essence or a higher power. She often described it as finding a calm harbor within oneself, a place of peace and clarity that could be accessed even amid life's storms. She spoke of a man who had faced tremendous loss, losing his job, his home, and the certainty of his future within a single year. Struggling to make sense of his pain, he began a simple practice of sitting quietly each morning, reflecting on what he had rather than what he had lost. Slowly, his perspective shifted. He found solace in small moments, a bird's song, the warmth of sunlight, the support of a friend. Over time, this daily practice nurtured his spirit, giving him the strength to rebuild his life. The wise old woman explained that spirituality is not about escaping life's challenges, but about finding the strength to move through them with grace. She encouraged her listeners to start small by setting aside a few minutes each day to sit in stillness, breathe deeply, and simply be. For some, this stillness might lead to prayer. For others, it might be reflecting on nature or journaling thoughts and feelings, whatever brings a sense of connection and peace. She also shared that embracing spirituality often allows us to see life's difficulties in a new light, not as insurmountable obstacles but as opportunities for growth. She recounted the story of a woman who, after enduring years of illness, found comfort in the practice of gratitude. Each day, she would write down 3 things she was thankful for, however small. This act did not erase her struggles but gave her a sense of balance and hope, a reminder that even in pain there is beauty. The wise old woman's voice was steady as she reminded her audience, peace is not something found outside of you. It is within, waiting for you to notice it. Life will always bring waves, but when you anchor yourself in spirituality, you'll find that you can weather them all. She urged her listeners to approach this journey with patience and curiosity, knowing that the path to inner peace is deeply personal and unfolds in its own time. As her wisdom unfolded, she offered one final thought. Take a moment tonight to listen not to the noise around you, but to the quiet voice within. Ask yourself, what brings you peace? Follow that voice, and you may discover a sanctuary that no challenge can ever take away. With these words lingering in the hearts of her listeners, she transitioned to her insights on managing expectations, a lesson in finding balance between hope and reality. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman spoke about the importance of managing expectations, a lesson that has the power to reshape how we navigate life's twists and turns. She began by explaining that much of our frustration comes not from the events themselves, but from how they measure up to the expectations we hold. Unrealistic hopes or assumptions, she said, often set us on a path of disappointment, not because life has failed us, but because we fail to adjust to its reality. To illustrate this, she shared the story of a young man who dreamed of becoming a successful artist. He poured hours into his work, imagining fame and recognition that never came. With each rejection, his disappointment grew, and he began to doubt his talent. One day, he decided to take a step back and reevaluate why he created art in the first place. He realized his joy came not from others' approval, but from the process itself, the colors, the lines, the expression of his soul. By shifting his expectation from seeking external validation to simply enjoying the act of creation, he rediscovered his passion and found peace in his journey. The wise old woman explained that managing expectations does not mean giving up on dreams or lowering standards. Rather, it is about setting goals that align with reality while allowing room for flexibility. She likened it to planting a garden. You can nurture seeds, provide sunlight and water, but you cannot force them to grow overnight. Similarly, in relationships, expecting perfection from others often leads to unnecessary conflict. Accepting that everyone has flaws, including ourselves, fosters patience and understanding, building stronger, healthier connections. She shared another story, this time of a mother who struggled with her teenage daughter. The mother had envisioned a close, harmonious bond, but their conversations often ended in arguments. One day, she decided to approach her daughter with curiosity instead of expectations. Instead of assuming how their relationship should look, she asked her daughter how she felt and what she needed. This shift in perspective opened a door to mutual respect and a relationship that, while not perfect, became grounded in trust and love. The wise old woman's voice softened as she said, "Expectations are not the enemy, but when they remain unchecked, they can blind us to the beauty of what is. Learn to hold them lightly, like a guiding star, but not so tightly that they block your view of the sky." She encouraged her listeners to reflect on the expectations they carry and to ask themselves whether those expectations bring peace or pain. As her advice settled into the hearts of her audience, she gently transitioned to her next lesson, focusing on appreciating the present moment, a practice she described as the secret to truly living. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman began to unravel the profound art of appreciating the present moment, a lesson she described as the secret to truly living. She explained that many of us spend our days caught between the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future, overlooking the simple, fleeting beauty of the present. Life, she said with a calm certainty, is not measured in years or events, but in moments, those small, quiet instances when you are fully here, fully alive. To bring her lesson to life, she told the story of a man who always waited for the right time to enjoy life. He postponed vacations to focus on work, kept pushing his hobbies aside for later, and saved heartfelt conversations with loved ones for a better day that never seemed to come. One night, while sitting alone at his dining table, he thought about the years that had slipped away and realized how much he had missed by waiting for a future that was never guaranteed. From that moment on, he made a conscious decision to embrace the present, whether it was savoring his morning coffee, laughing with a friend, or simply watching the rain fall. Little by little, his life transformed, not because everything changed, but because he started noticing the joy in what had been there all along. The wise old woman shared practical ways to cultivate this awareness. She spoke of mindfulness, the practice of anchoring oneself in the now. Begin with your senses, she advised. Feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. Hear the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Taste each bite of food as if it were the finest meal you've ever had. These small acts awaken us to the richness of life that often goes unnoticed. She also emphasized the value of meditation, not as a mystical ritual but as a simple pause, a chance to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and connect with the present. She offered a metaphor, likening the mind to a restless bird always flitting between branches of thought. When you ground yourself in the present, she explained, it's like inviting the bird to rest, allowing peace to settle in its place. For those struggling to let go of past regrets or future worries, she suggested a simple reflection. Ask yourself, what is within my control right now? What can I appreciate about this very moment? The answers will guide you back to the here and now. Her wisdom illuminated the faces of her listeners, and she closed this lesson with a poignant reminder. The present moment is a gift, yet so many of us leave it unopened. Learn to live it fully, for it is all we ever truly have. As her words settled into the hearts of her audience, she gently transitioned to her next lesson, focusing on why laughter is medicine for the soul, a lesson filled with lightness and joy. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman turned toward a lesson that brought a sparkle of joy to her eyes, the healing power of laughter. She began by explaining that laughter is more than just a momentary reaction. It is a profound balm for the soul. Laughter, she said gently, has a way of lightening even the heaviest of burdens. It reminds us that no matter how difficult life may seem, joy can still find its way in. To illustrate her wisdom, she shared a story about a woman who faced tremendous hardships. This woman had lost her job, was struggling to make ends meet, and was weighed down by a constant sense of failure. One day, while sitting with a friend, she accidentally spilled her drink all over herself. For a brief second, she froze, feeling foolish, but then her friend burst out laughing. To her surprise, she started laughing too, and for that moment the heaviness lifted. She realized that life didn't always have to be so serious. From then on, she sought out moments of humor, watching funny movies, cracking jokes with her children, and sharing light-hearted stories with others. Over time, while her challenges didn't disappear, her ability to face them grew stronger because she had laughter as her companion. The wise old woman explained that laughter isn't just emotionally healing but physically beneficial as well. When you laugh, she said with a knowing smile, your body releases chemicals that ease stress, boost your immune system, and even bring a sense of calm. She encouraged her listeners to seek out sources of laughter, whether it was spending time with people who bring them joy or finding humor in the small, unexpected moments of daily life. She advised, surround yourself with those who make you smile and don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. There's power in not taking everything so seriously. For those who felt joy was distant or unreachable, she offered a simple practice. Think back to a moment when you laughed uncontrollably, a time when you couldn't stop even if you tried. Remember how your body felt lighter, as if your burdens had been momentarily set down. That feeling is a reminder of how resilient your spirit truly is. She also spoke about how laughter creates bonds, saying, when we laugh with others, it's as if the walls between us fall away. We are reminded of our shared humanity, of the joy that connects us all. Her lesson ended with a heartfelt invitation to embrace humor as a daily ritual. Let laughter be the thread that weaves joy into the fabric of your life, she urged. Smile often, laugh freely, and don't let the weight of the world steal the lightness of your heart. As her words filled the room with a sense of warmth and connection, she gracefully moved into her next lesson, preparing to explore the value of true friendship and the bonds that make life all the more meaningful. Now turning to the next lesson, the wise old woman spoke with gentle conviction about the often overlooked art of listening. She began by highlighting a profound truth. Listening is more than just hearing words, it is the doorway to understanding. She explained that by truly listening, we create spaces where others feel seen, valued, and understood. In a world so full of noise, she said, the gift of your undivided attention is one of the most powerful acts of love you can offer. To illustrate her point, she shared a story about a man who struggled in his relationship with his son. The man, caught up in his own worries and distractions, often dismissed his son's attempts to share his thoughts. Over time, the gap between them grew until one day, during a rare quiet moment, the man chose to simply listen. He put aside his distractions and gave his son his complete focus. To his surprise, his son began opening up about his challenges and dreams. That single act of listening not only began to repair their bond, but also transformed the man's understanding of his son's world. The wise old woman went on to explain that listening is not just about the words being spoken, but also about observing the emotions, pauses, and silences. Pay attention to what is being said and what is left unsaid, she advised, for in those spaces between words lies the heart of understanding. She emphasized that listening is an active practice requiring patience, empathy, and humility. By truly listening, we learn not only about others but also about ourselves. She also shared practical steps for becoming a better listener. Start by being fully present, she said, encouraging her audience to resist the urge to interrupt or plan their response while someone else is speaking. She recommended techniques like maintaining eye contact, nodding to show understanding, and asking thoughtful questions to delve deeper into what the other person is expressing. Practicing mindfulness, she explained, can help calm our distractions and allow us to be fully available in conversations. The wise old woman also spoke about how listening extends beyond interpersonal relationships. Listen to the world around you, she urged. The breeze, the laughter of a child, your own inner voice. When you tune in, you discover lessons and beauty you might otherwise miss. She reminded everyone that listening strengthens connections, whether with loved ones, friends, or even strangers. In listening to others, she said, You build bridges of empathy, understanding, and trust that can withstand the storms of life. Finally, as her words resonated deeply with her listeners, she offered a simple reflection. Think of a time when someone truly listened to you. Remember how it felt to be heard, to be understood without judgment. Now imagine offering that same gift to someone else. Listening is the seed from which connection and compassion grow. With that, she gently transitioned to her next lesson, ready to explore the joy and value found in love, the ultimate legacy we leave behind. Now turning to the next chapter, the wise old woman shared her thoughts on love as the most enduring legacy we leave behind. She began by stating, "When all is said and done, it is not the wealth we amass or the accolades we earn that define our lives. It is the love we give and the love we receive." She explained that love, in its many forms, be it familial, romantic, or platonic, holds the power to outlast us, rippling through generations and shaping the world far beyond our time on earth. To bring this truth to life, she recounted the story of a teacher who, though she lived modestly, dedicated her life to uplifting her students. Her unwavering belief in their potential and the kindness she showed each of them left an indelible mark. Years later, one of her students, now a successful author, credited her for instilling the confidence that carried him through life's trials. When asked about his success, he said, "It wasn't just her teaching. It was her love, her belief in me that made all the difference." The wise old woman pointed out that this teacher's love and compassion were her true legacy, one that continued to inspire and empower others long after her own journey had ended. She then explained that love should not be confined to grand gestures but is often found in the smallest acts of kindness. A warm smile to a stranger, a word of encouragement to someone in need, or simply the patience to truly understand another's struggles. These are the threads of love that weave a lasting legacy. She emphasized that such acts are never wasted, even if their impact is not immediately visible, as they contribute to a collective spirit of goodness that strengthens humanity as a whole. The wise old woman also spoke about the transformative power of love in healing divisions and fostering unity. Love, she said, is the great equalizer. It sees no boundaries, no barriers, no differences. It only seeks to connect, to unite, and to uplift. She encouraged her listeners to lead with love, even in the face of anger or misunderstanding. When you choose love over resentment, you become a source of light in a world that can sometimes feel so dark, she added. She concluded this lesson with a heartfelt reflection. Think of all the people who have touched your life with their love. Perhaps it was a parent, a friend, or even a stranger who showed you kindness when you least expected it. Now think of how their love has shaped you, how it has carried you through life's storms. That is the legacy of love. It is not bound by time or space. It lives on in the hearts it touches. As her words settled over her audience, she gently led them toward the next lesson, ready to delve into the strength found in perseverance, even when the odds seem insurmountable. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman turned her reflections toward the unyielding strength of perseverance. She began with a simple yet profound statement. Life will test you again and again, but it is in those moments of struggle that you discover who you truly are. Perseverance is not just enduring hardship, it is the refusal to let hardship define you. To illustrate her point, she recounted the story of a young inventor who failed countless times while trying to create a device that would revolutionize communication. Mocked by his peers and dismissed as a fool, he could have easily given up. Yet he persisted, learning from each failure until he finally succeeded. That invention. The telephone which transformed the world forever. The wise old woman explained that perseverance is often mistaken for unchanging determination, when in truth it is an ever-evolving process. It's not about stubbornly clinging to one path, she said. It's about adapting, learning, and finding new ways forward when obstacles block the old ones. Perseverance is creativity with a backbone. She encouraged her listeners to reframe failure as a stepping stone rather than a setback. Every failure carries a lesson, she noted, and every lesson brings you closer to your goal. She then offered practical advice for staying motivated during life's hardest moments. First, she stressed the importance of focusing on small, achievable goals. When the mountain feels too high to climb, set your sights on the next step. One step at a time is still progress. She also spoke of the value of seeking support, reminding her listeners that no one succeeds alone. Lean on those who believe in you, and when you feel your strength wavering, let their belief carry you through. Finally, she emphasized the need to cultivate hope. Hope, she said, is the fuel that keeps the fire of perseverance burning. Even in your darkest hour, hold on to hope. It will guide you toward the light. To bring her lesson full circle, she shared the story of a farmer whose crops were destroyed year after year by unpredictable weather. Though many in his village abandoned farming, the farmer refused to quit. "The rains will come," he would say, "and I will be ready." He explored new methods, planted crops that could withstand harsh conditions, and eventually built a thriving farm that supported not only his family but his entire community. His perseverance not only brought him personal success but uplifted those around him, a reminder that persistence often creates ripples far beyond ourselves. As the wise old woman's voice softened, she left her listeners with a final thought. No matter how many times life brings you to your knees, rise again. For every storm you weather, every obstacle you overcome shapes the person you are becoming. Perseverance is not just a path to success, it is a testament to your strength, your resilience, and your will to rise above. With her words lingering in the minds of her audience, she gently guided them toward the next chapter, ready to explore the peace found in accepting life's imperfections. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman turned her thoughts to a truth often overlooked in the pursuit of happiness: the beauty of life's imperfections. She began with a heartfelt reminder: perfection is an illusion, a mirage that keeps moving further away the closer you think you are to it. To seek perfection is to chase what simply does not exist. She explained that society often misleads us into believing that flaws are weaknesses to hide or fix. But in reality, they are what make us human, unique, relatable, and capable of growth. She shared the story of a potter who created beautiful clay pots. One day, a small crack formed in one of her pieces. While others saw it as a defect, the potter saw an opportunity. She filled the crack with gold, transforming the flaw into a feature that made the pot more stunning than before. This practice, she explained, was inspired by an ancient art form that teaches us to embrace imperfections and make them a part of our story. The cracks in your life, she said, are what let the light in. They are not there to diminish you but to enhance you. The wise old woman encouraged her listeners to extend the same grace to others as well. We often expect perfection from ourselves and those around us, and when reality falls short, we feel frustrated or disappointed. But what if, instead of demanding flawlessness, we celebrated effort, growth, and authenticity? She suggested that by accepting others as they are, flaws and all, we create space for genuine connection and understanding. Compassion begins where judgment ends, she added. She also touched on the idea of self-compassion, urging her audience to be kinder to themselves. We are often our own harshest critics, she noted, but would you speak to a dear friend the way you speak to yourself in moments of failure? Probably not, so why not treat yourself with the same kindness? She shared a simple exercise. Whenever self-doubt arises, pause and imagine how you would comfort someone you love in the same situation. Then offer those same words of encouragement to yourself. To reinforce her point, she spoke of an artist who spent years attempting to paint a perfect masterpiece, only to feel dissatisfied with every stroke. Frustrated, he discarded his brushes and began painting with his hands, smudging and blending colors in ways that felt chaotic yet freeing. The result: a breathtaking piece that resonated deeply with others, not because it was flawless, but because it was raw, emotional, and real. Sometimes the greatest beauty lies in imperfection, she said. It is in the messy, unpolished moments where we often find our truest selves. As her words settled, she left her audience with an empowering thought. Life's imperfections are not barriers to happiness, they are stepping stones to peace. When you learn to embrace them, you free yourself from the impossible burden of perfection and open your heart to the joy of simply being. With this lesson etched in their minds, she gently guided them toward the next chapter, ready to explore the unexpected serenity found in slowing down and savoring the journey. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the wise old woman turned her focus to a lesson both simple and profound, the wisdom of slowing down. She began with a reflective pause, urging her listeners to consider how often they rush through life, consumed by schedules, responsibilities, and an endless pursuit of the next goal. We are so busy chasing what's ahead, she said, that we often miss the beauty of what's right here, right now. She reminded them of the fleeting nature of time, likening life to a book with pages that turn too quickly. If you rush to finish the story, you miss the richness of each chapter. The meaning of life isn't found in the destination. It's uncovered in the moments we live along the way. To illustrate her point, she shared the story of a farmer who worked tirelessly to produce the perfect harvest. One season, a storm destroyed his crops, leaving him with nothing to show for his labor. While devastated at first, the farmer was forced to step back and focus on the simple joys he had long neglected: the laughter of his children, the warmth of a shared meal, and the peace of watching a sunset. In the absence of his usual ambitions, he found a deeper sense of fulfillment in being present. The wise old woman explained that slowing down does not mean abandoning goals or becoming idle. Rather, it is about finding balance, making time to savor life's small joys instead of speeding past them. She encouraged her audience to practice mindfulness, a conscious effort to remain present in each moment. When you eat a meal, truly taste the flavors. When you listen to a friend, really hear their words. When you take a walk, notice the breeze and the way the leaves dance in the wind. These aren't insignificant details, they are the threads that weave the fabric of a meaningful life. She gently challenged her listeners to reflect on their own lives. How many of your happiest memories were made in moments of stillness rather than in the rush to achieve something? Pay attention to those memories, they are telling you what truly matters. To make her message practical, she suggested carving out time each day to slow down, even if only for a few minutes. Start by setting down your phone and sitting quietly, she said. Breathe deeply and let yourself simply be. You might be surprised at the peace you discover. To close her lesson, she shared a timeless piece of wisdom. Life is not a race to the finish line. It is a gift meant to be unwrapped slowly, with care and gratitude. With this, she invited her audience to embrace the pace of life's natural rhythm, trusting that by slowing down, they would not fall behind but instead move closer to what truly fills the heart. As the message settled, she prepared to guide them toward yet another element of her wisdom, ready to explore how kindness, even when unnoticed, is never wasted. As the sun rises on the final chapter of her wisdom, the wise old woman brought her lessons together with a quiet yet profound clarity. She reminded her listeners that life's greatest treasures often lie not in material achievements or grand milestones, but in the simple truths that guide our hearts and actions each day. Patience teaches us to endure with grace, while slowing down reveals the richness of each moment. Letting go of burdens allows us to move forward lighter, and kindness, even when invisible, ripples outward in ways we may never see. She spoke of the importance of cherishing relationships with family, with friends, and most importantly, with oneself. She urged her audience to embrace change, care for their well-being, and seek peace in simplicity. Life, she said, is not about perfecting every step, but about finding meaning in the journey, however imperfect it may be. The wise old woman encouraged reflection, asking her listeners to pause and consider which lessons resonated most deeply with them. What wisdom will you carry forward? What changes will you make to live more fully, more intentionally? This is your story to write. And in her final words, she offered a gentle yet powerful challenge to live with gratitude, courage, and love, leaving behind a legacy not of things but of a life well lived. As her voice faded, the timeless wisdom she shared remained, inviting everyone to reflect and act. If her words have sparked something within you, take a moment to share your favorite piece of advice in the comments below. Let us grow together through this shared wisdom. And if you found value in her lessons, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story that inspires. Remember, life's greatest lessons come not from rushing, but from truly listening, reflecting, and living with purpose. Thank you for joining this journey. Until next time, take care and live wisely.